Hi everyone, I'm going to talk about Pluto stationing direct in Aquarius, which is happening very soon. So this is going to happen on the 13th or 14th of October, depending on where you are in the world. For the UK collective, this is going to be happening on the 14th of October at 3:53 a.m. So 5 hours and 34 minutes after Venus makes her ingress into the sign of Libra. I have just recorded an astrology report on that. So if you're interested in finding out more, check it out on my YouTube channel. But of course, for some of you, this is going to be happening on the 13th of October, depending on time zones, okay? So I'm going to show you the chart. Because there is a small amount of time between Venus's ingress into Libra and Pluto stationing direct, the Grand Trine that I spoke about in that video is still there. So this is a harmonious trine between Venus in Libra, Uranus in Gemini, currently retrograde, and Pluto in Aquarius. The difference being, at the time of Venus's ingress into Libra, Pluto was retrograde, but this whole video is about him stationing direct, but the trine is still there. What I feel from this, it's almost like a bit of a clunk, click, shifting into gear. He stations direct, and he's a force to be reckoned with as well. This is not surface level transformation. This is deep rebirth transformation. So his time in retrograde about the new reality that we're trying to roll out for ourselves, as well as the other planetary aspects, retrogrades, eclipses, portals, all of that, closing out cycles, the profound transformation we've already been going through. He's now going to shift into gear, start to move forward. Of course, he moves slow because he's going to be in Aquarius for about 20 years in total. So yes, he's moving slow, but this is rolling out this new reality. The wisdom that we've understood from the aforementioned eclipses, portals, various new moons, full moons, other planetary retrogrades, other aspects going on, has given us that wisdom and experience to understand where are we out of alignment with what we're trying to achieve going forward. What is holding us back from this deep transformation? Because it's deep. It's not surface level. And what's the direction in which we're heading? Okay, we've got many, many things to consider because astrology is the bigger picture, as I always say. So just simply saying Pluto stationing direct in Aquarius is one thing, but the other aspects need to be looked at as well. And of course, how it plays out in your own unique chart. So are there certain planets, asteroids within your natal chart that are in Aquarius? Are there any that are aspecting Pluto? Where is your Pluto? Okay, so looking at all of that. But anyway, I will pull up the chart and we're going to look at it. That Grand Trine is still there, as I mentioned. So there's still that emphasis on where we're investing our time, our energy, our love, our attention, our money. And in the sign of Libra, and Venus being at home in Libra, it's about the fairness that we're trying to establish in relation to that. So this forms part of the transformation that Pluto is calling for, because it's about a new way of being. We're trying to innovate Aquarius energy with how we're moving forward. So we need to look at where we are investing all these things. And okay, we've had to look at that throughout a period of however long. But this is very relevant to what's going on right now because of Venus in direct opposition to Neptune. And Neptune will soon be retrograding back into Pisces. So he is hovering over that cusp point of the end of one sign, Pisces, and the beginning of a new one, Aries. That in itself is the end of an astrological year and the beginning of a new one. It's not just zodiac sign to zodiac sign. There's something more profound about that. So it's a major cycle closeout. Endings, beginnings, endings, beginnings. This year has been about that. Neptune is awakening people to the truth of what's been hidden. So yes, we might have had to look at values where we're investing our time previously. We're always needing to make adjustments on this journey, but there is something more about this, because we're trying to restore balance. We are trying to get into alignment with our spiritual truth, to trust our intuition more, to recognize our worth and values in situations across the board, so that we can move forward into the new reality that we are trying to create for ourselves. And talk about the butterfly emerging from the cocoon, okay? Think of that like times a million or times infinity. Let's be really dramatic about it. Because it's profound transformation. But think of the butterfly or the caterpillar, you know, trying to get to that point where he or she is then a butterfly, but stuck on some gunk in the cocoon. And the thing is with butterflies, you can't help them out of their cocoon because they could die. They need to do it themselves. So we've been trudging through the gunk for quite some time, and we've had to face all of this that's been coming up. And it's all for our highest good, of course, even if it feels challenging and we question certain things. It's all to show us what's been hidden, what needs to be revealed. Okay, what do we need to be aware of in order to make those adjustments? So yes, the message has been there and will continue to be there, because we need to constantly adjust, align with our worth and values. But going forward into this new reality, you know, this is not, we're not going back to how it was. This is changing. Okay, the future is changing. And those of you on that path are going to know. Okay, so recognition that this is profound transformation. Profound transformation. Let's dive into the chart. Okay, bear with me. Okay. I haven't got the one against the UK's chart. I try and make this as brief as possible. Okay, so Pluto stations direct in Aquarius, British summer time, 14th of October, 3:53 a.m. And as I said, it's 5 hours, 34 minutes after Venus ingresses into the sign of Libra. So for some people in the world, it's both is going to be happening on the 13th, of course. But for the UK collective, we got the Venus ingress at night on the 13th, and then early hours of the 14th is when Pluto stations direct. So as I say, the clunk click, the shifting into gear, the moving forward. And it's kind of like, okay, during my time in retrograde, what have you been learning about what needs to profoundly transform? Recognize that next week we are going to be heading into Scorpio season, and Pluto rules Scorpio. So the sun, soul essence of the cosmos, will be in Scorpio, of course. So this is about major, profound soul rebirth. So going through everything that we've had to and being tested, etc., is transforming us on a soul deep level. And it's more so about the real authentic, because Scorpio goes deep, is very honest, very real. The real authentic essence of the soul emerging, just like that butterfly coming out of the cocoon, okay? And it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes, but it's deep. I'm not talking about surface level here. This is deep soul rebirth. Going through those experiences, being tested. As I say, it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes. It's not the same as before. Okay, and that's the reality we're moving into, but on a soul level, our true essence emerging, shedding those old layers, We're in a 9-year, remember, 2025. Endings, beginnings has been the themes. We've had many portals, many eclipses. We've had major illuminations of cycles that need to close out in order to emerge as our authentic soul. So it's big, it's a big deal. You can see that trine, that grand trine that I've just been talking about, okay? There is a square that is going to Lilith. So let's address that. So Lilith in Libra as well, okay? The square can represent challenging energy. And of course, Lilith, just like Saturn, is a great teacher. Lilith will show us shadow aspects. And she will also reveal what we might have been suppressing, like deep desires. She is the shadow feminine. So it's interesting that both her and Venus are in Libra. And that in itself is striving for balance between light and shadow. And that's life, by the way. There's light and shadow to everything. So bringing those two feminine energies into balance is what we're trying to achieve. We want to feel comfortable enough to address shadow aspects, shadow wounds that we might have over certain things, why we might feel anxious about certain things, why we doubt our worth about certain things, why we will only accept things that are not fair and not balanced. What's causing that? Really looking at that. And the sun, 5-degree orb from Lilith at that point, but supporting Lilith in that, supporting us in that as we address shadow aspects, because Venus wants us to, of course, align with getting our Venus values balanced and harmonious, where we're investing our time, energy, etc., like I've already mentioned. But Lilith will show us why we might have accepted less than what we're worth. And can we face that? So the challenge comes from the introspection on what we need to transform. So if we've got a certain image we have of ourselves that we will only accept something that is not balanced, not reciprocal, why? Why will we only accept that? Do we think little of ourselves? Is it because people have told us things before? So looking at that, addressing what Lilith is showing us, but needing to do that as part of the transformation can be challenged, and that's why the square is there, okay? Acknowledging that we want to be independent and we want to, focus on our path, on our new reality, but to do that, addressing those aspects, okay? And calling in that divine justice that we deserve as part of the transformation. We've got two sextiles which are also harmonious. The first one to Juno in Sagittarius and the other one to Neptune in Aries retrograde, but will soon be retrograding back into Pisces, as I've already covered in other reports. So sextile, yeah, lots harmonious. So Juno in Sag, first of all. This is about, finally realising at this point, when Pluto shifts into gear, and it's like transformation train heading in this direction, there is a commitment to the journey here with Juno in Sag. But not only that, it's a commitment to what we have discovered during Pluto's retrograde, as well as the other stuff going on. So the things that's been coming up for us. And of course, Neptune also revealing things. So there is a commitment to the path, what we've discovered, what we're learning, through that love for ourselves and the quest to motivate ourselves further, because that's Sag energy as well, very motivational. Pointing that bow and arrow in the direction of that which we want and being committed to that. So commitment to the path, commitment to what we're trying to transform here. And by doing that, we're acknowledging what is being shown to us so that we can address it. We can only kind of be open to that if we're committed to our path, and vice versa. Commitment to our path is kind of like, okay, I'm committed to the direction in which I'm heading because this is what I'm trying to create for my life. And I'm therefore open to what will be revealed to me, where I might need to address certain aspects that have been deceptive, have been illusionary, have been where I've sabotaged things because of lack of worth or low self-esteem, you know, the shadow aspects coming up and so on. It's the bigger picture with everything. And all throughout this, don't forget, Saturn is still teaching us to get in alignment with our spiritual truth. So being honest with ourselves on a soul level. Not only that, the sun in Libra, so on a soul level, we want to feel like things are fair. So in order to do that, we need to accept the lessons of Saturn and what Neptune is showing us, where things are not fair. So we're committed to that. We're open to that because we're committed to the path. And that makes Pluto happy. It also makes Saturn happy. It makes Lilith happy, because it is about understanding that we are trying to acknowledge what is being shown to us so that we can pivot accordingly and we can put boundaries in place. Saturn loves a boundary, so put boundaries in place where we need to, because, you know, I've understood the wisdom from this. I've received the lesson about this and recognition of that. Now, of course, we've still got Mercury in Scorpio, because of course, you know, I covered this in the other chart and it was just 5 hours, 34 minutes beforehand. So yes, he's still in Scorpio. Mars is also there as well. So there is that drive in terms of honest, authentic communication, but that might still feel challenging, you know, to kind of go there in terms of the honesty or the depth in which you might need to address certain things, to restore that balance. Okay, so recognition, you know, and I've had to have real like conversations about where certain aspects have not been balanced, and pointing things out that I didn't think I ever would, and having to look at that as if to sort of say, okay, is that because I've just tried to keep the peace all this time, and now it's got to a point where I will not tolerate this, and I'm having to say something? Or is it just about, you know, you find that inner confidence to speak up about things because you're understanding your worth? So I'm just using that as an example to say, I'm not immune to this. You know, there are situations on my journey that I'm having to address because of what's being shown to me and how it's playing out for me. So recognition that the honest communication is needed, okay, and the fairness and the balance that, you know, we're all worthy of, but over time and because of situations and experiences that happen, that can cloud one's own judgment, and you almost begin to accept less than. And it's like, no, this is about recalibration and balancing the scales so things are fair and harmonious. And in order to do that, you might have to speak up about it, but be honest, be real, come from a deep place. And that can be, because again, Pluto, Scorpio energy is deep. It's not surface level, it's deep. So needing to understand it, that's coming from the depths of the soul. I mean it, you know, it's not just surface level chatter. Yeah. So recognition of that's something that, you know, certainly the Venus values might trigger that, because it's like, oh, got to have a bit of an uncomfortable conversation. But once it's done, that in itself could restore balance. So it's recognition of that, even if it's an honest conversation with yourself. I've said that before, but yeah, going deep in relation to that. Okay. Now, the other thing I'm going to mention, in fact, there's a couple of things, is that the vertex point, which is just a marker point, can symbolize fate and destiny. Now, in the UK's chart, because I have looked at this against the UK's chart, I've not marked it up to show you because I wanted to keep this brief. But the vertex point is actually in the in the 8th house. Apologies, Pluto and Pallas are in the 7th house for the UK transiting, okay? And the vertex point is in the 8th house. And I found that very interesting because showing up in Aquarius, in the 8th house, which is also Scorpio's house, so the Pluto vibe is there as well. The 8th house to me symbolises power. It can be power, passion. It can also be attributed to external resources. Okay, so we look at all of those things, but the power thing stood out to me because it was about empowerment. Because when you think of the Aquarian energy of the independence and fate and destined moment here in terms of individuality, independence, that kind of empowerment through recognition of the boundaries that's needed in order to, you know, transform profoundly in this new reality. That seemed very, very significant. And the other thing I wanted to mention is the fact that, and pay no attention to the house numbers here, by the way, because this is just the event. The chart shows the event of Pluto stationing direct. But here, the moon at this point is going to be in Cancer. So the moon will be at home, and Jupiter is also in Cancer. So there is this expansion within emotions, and it feels like a good thing because, of course, the moon is at home in Cancer. So there is this feeling of unconditional love for oneself by doing this. So underpinning it all, because Cancer is also cardinal energy. So we want to be driven by the Libra essence of the fairness and reciprocity. We also want to be driven from the Aries essence of sovereignty and the self, what we stand for and standing up for ourselves, as well as Capricorn energy, like not messing around, focus, determination, but also Cancerian energy, coming from that place of unconditional love for oneself, to respect yourself enough to put these boundaries in place. And that then expands your emotional home, your emotional experiences, and there is more of the feel-good vibe to it, even if it's a tad uncomfortable to have those honest conversations or to accept what is being revealed. The nuts and bolts of it is, once that's understood, and it's like lesson learned, that is what I need to do. Just from doing that is showing yourself the love that can then expand things emotionally, if that makes sense, how I'm describing it. There is a semi-square here to the midheaven point, and there's also squares going down to the Sun and Lilith. So, of course, it's going to feel challenging because of the shadow aspects. But this is what I mean about going through all of that, understanding why. Well, I want to restore balance. This is not fair. Having the honest conversations where needed, even if it's just to yourself. And then recognizing that just doing that in itself is showing yourself that love and that nurturing that you deserve to put those things in place, to restore balance, to set order, to set boundaries. And that allows you to open up more to what feels good. Okay, so it's not necessarily an easy thing, but this is about the transformative path and the potentiality of what could come from doing that. Recognizing, you know, North Node Pisces, South Node Virgo, we might think our path was meant to look a certain way. It's meant to be like that. I want to have everything under control, and trust me on this. I'm a Pisces and I've got a Virgo stellium and a Virgo rising. So I am struggling the two signs all the time. It's about being the dreamer and the realist and balancing the two. But here we've got the South Node in Virgo. So we want to move away from the perfectionist vision of it has to look a certain way, more into the flow and surrender of the Piscean path, trusting our intuition and being guided by that inner compass and allowing things to flow, because we're actually aligning with what we need to and then allowing it to flow, being open for it to flow in that way. But if we've held on to ideas that it has to look a certain way because, you know, I invest my time in that situation, my energy in that situation, because it has to be part of my path like that. And that might be where there are some blocks because, you know, Venus is now saying, look at your investments. Are they fair? Are they reciprocal? Oh, but it has to be like that. That was how the path was meant to be. No, we're moving into the ethereal path of your intuition. So does it feel right to you? Actually, no. So pivot, put boundaries in place. Okay, so anyway, you get what I'm saying with that. We are moving in the direction of new. We are moving in the direction of being soul-led, guided by our intuition, our inner compass. And of course, what makes our inner compass so strong? The wisdom that we've gained from all of the experiences that we've gone through, the challenges and the good times, all of it. Everything has a purpose. Every connection, every experience has a purpose. So we gain the wisdom, and our wisdom bank, as I refer to it as, in our soul, gets stronger. Okay? So then we can face other things on our path with that wisdom and recognize those lessons from before. And our wisdom bank, our soul's knowledge, if we've been here many lifetimes, is vast. But we may only just be unlocking it, okay? Because as part of the ascension, and again, this is only going to resonate with some of you, as part of the ascension, there's been remembrances of certain past life events, patterns, situations, connections, whatever they might be, and recognition that this lifetime, and certainly this year, feels pivotal because of endings, beginnings, and it being a 9-year, closing out cycles, healing, karma, all of this. It's about recognition of where certain things need to be cleared and cleansed to let things in the past go. And again, it's not going to resonate with all of you, but if you think of just this lifetime, things in the past that we need to let go of and detach from, that we might have still been holding on to, and we haven't really realized there's a pattern there. This might be coming up. This might be part of what Neptune is showing you. This might be what Saturn's teaching you. This could be what Lilith is showing you. Number of things. As I say, it's the bigger picture. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing. I tried to make that brief, but I know I do, in my usual way, go off a bit of a tangent because I just allow things to flow. Okay, when I do these videos, and I trust that what comes through needs to come through. Okay. Did I write down anything else when I was looking at the chart earlier? Oh, yeah, I knew there was something else. So Pallas is also in square to Mercury, okay, at that point. So I know I mentioned Pallas in the previous video when I was talking about Venus ingress. So there is still a trine, okay, that's going from Venus to Pallas, and that's still the same in this chart. But there is a square to Mercury. So definitely when it comes to strategizing how we're moving forward in this transformative way, the communication side of it is definitely where it could feel challenging, because, you know, you might want to communicate your plans, but not really know how to or whether you should. So the other thing that comes up for me is overanalyzing as well, because when you think of like strategizing and planning, and then you've got the square energy there and Mercury, which can be up in the mind a bit, there can be that kind of over-strategizing, over-analyzing. So there could be some of that at play also in terms of moving forward. But remember, I'm saying about surrendering more. Well, okay, it's not so easy to remember to do that on a daily basis. And we have got to address certain things, and we do need the mind, we do need logic to apply certain situations. But all I'm saying with the intuition and the inner compass is to trust in how you feel. So how do you feel in your intuition about certain things, and then be guided from that point, and then apply the strategy to move forward in that way. Okay, so yes, I hope that finds you well. So of course we got the Venus ingress into Libra, so divine feminine coming home to herself, and if you want to check that out, it's on the other video on my YouTube channel. Next week we've got a new moon in Libra. We've also got Neptune retrograding back into Pisces. And we have also got the sun ingressing into Scorpio, because it's the start of Scorpio season. Oh, I don't know if that paused then because I had a low battery alert, but I was just saying that we've got the new moon in Libra, we've got Neptune retrograding back into Pisces, and we have got the sun ingressing into Scorpio to start Scorpio season. Soul rebirth time, major transformation. So embrace the transformation, recognize what you're being shown this week. It might be stuff you're already aware of, but it could be heightened this week, and it's certainly in terms of, you know, boundaries or where you're investing your Venus values, and understand that's part of the story when it comes to the transformation that Pluto is calling for. But also recognize what Lilith is showing. If there's shadow aspects about, you know, if you have overgiven in a situation, why that might be. Is there a certain pattern that you need to address as part of the healing journey? And just looking at, you know, the bigger picture of it, looking at it from a higher perspective, I suppose, in that way. Okay, so take care, everyone, and I'll see you on the next video.